It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast. We do it 7 days a week. Of course we do. We love talking about property, as heard on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon this morning. Thursday morning, July the 4th, a pretty big day in the US. And I see that Australia's leading economic forecasters are predicting the Reserve Bank will start cutting interest rates by March of next year. This is what some of the intelligent real estate think tankers are thinking. They say they're going to cut it by 0.35%. If you want to know the dollars and cents, this cut could reduce the monthly cost of servicing a 600 variable rate mortgage by $125. And then the think tank is saying that by the end of 2025, they expect a further 0.3 point cut, bringing the cash rate down to 3.75 and saving $335 on that $600,000 mortgage. Gee, it's a lot of money. It's great to see that coming down in reverse. And these forecasts, of course, are coming after higher than expected consumer price index news. Despite some of the predictions of rate hikes, most expect rates to be lower within a year. Well, right now it's time to go to Stafford in Brisbane and catch up with Adam Stefan from LJ Hooker. Adam, this has got to be great news, for people with, let's say, first home buyers in those new apartments, having the rate come down.
It's going to be fantastic news, Craig. I can tell you now there's a lot of people out there that are really hoping for that rate cut. And I think first home buyers and people that are owning their own homes alike, they're really going to be looking forward to that news.
And of course, last week we were talking about just how good the selling market is for 2024 winter and asking the question, is it proving to be pretty resilient and bucking the normal trend of quieter months? So as mentioned, you're in Stafford in Brisbane. How would you describe at the moment the winter market going for you?
Look, it's very strong at the moment. What we're seeing is there's not a lot of stock on the market, and obviously there's lots of buyers out there looking to buy their first home, second home, upgrading, downsizing. So it's one of those times where, our average days on market at the moment is under 15 days. So if you're looking to be selling, now is definitely a good time.
Gee, 15 days. There you go. You've heard it from Adam. It's very short turnaround time. List, sell and repeat, I think, is the motto. Last weekend, what happened in your market?
Well, the weekend over that change in financial year is normally a pretty quiet one, coupled with also we've got the school holidays up here as well. But, we still actually had really good numbers through the open houses. So I think that really shows that, the rest of this winter selling season is going to be a strong one.
And there will be those people who decide that, winter just isn't for them. It's not the right time to sell. Some, of course, call that psychological. Others will say, well, it's a false belief that they will attain a stronger price in the spring market. How do you explain that particular mindset in people?
It's actually a pretty common mindset. You get a lot of people that I think want to get through those winter months and just get past it, and then they'll start preparing their house for sale for that spring launch. You get a lot of people thinking we'll move just in time for the end of the school year. But what we do see is there tends to be a lot more stock that comes to the market at that time because people have that mindset.
Yeah, so you mentioned the new financial year. I mean, just how much more stock do you think will come onto the market as a result of that?
Well, I think we'll see a lot of investors that start to really consider about realising the capital gains and the wealth creation they've had with the increase in prices over the last 12 months. I think they'll come to market. We're certainly seeing a lot more appraisals, a lot more going on in the back end. But I think, again, that new financial year, people will start to reassess their position financially and, start to decide, can I upgrade or do I want to downsize my house? So I think there'll be a lot more properties that start to hit the market in the July and August period.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's this whole mindset people get to. They get to July and it's kind of, right, let's reset, let's reanalyze where we're at, let's see how our finances are playing out, and they either jump or they just stay in that pause mode. All right, we're talking to Adam in Stafford there in Brisbane in Queensland this morning. When we come back, we're going to be finding out about downsizers in his market and also finding out about those first home buyers. We'll do that next.
From interest rates rising, a shifting landscape, rentals running hot, clearance rates, a tight rental market, we cover it all every morning from 6 a.m. on the Real Estate Breakfast.
Hey, something we're going to be talking about next week is that experts are suggesting that the current housing crisis could be significantly eased if more people simply downsized and fewer people lived by themselves. Now, the trend towards smaller household sizes has exacerbated the shortage of housing, encouraging empty nesters to move to smaller homes. That would free up larger properties for the market. This has come from a Domain report. And next week we will catch up with KPMG demographer Terry Rawnsley, who says that while the market conditions may slowly push people back into shared housing, the real solution is building more affordable homes. It's not rocket science, is it? And Reserve Bank Assistant Governor Sarah Hunter highlighted that if household sizes were the same as 40 years ago, we would need 1.2 million fewer dwellings. And that figure matches the federal government's goal for new homes over the next 5 years. So we'll catch up on all of that and catch up with Terry next week.
From buying strategies, a fluctuating market, the importance of data, geographical differences, confidence in the market, rental yields. Stay informed every morning from 6 a.m.
And it is a Real Estate Thursday. This morning we are talking with Adam Stefan from LJ Hooker in Stafford in Brisbane there. Yeah, so downsizers. What is going on with the downsizers in your market at the moment, Adam? I think a lot of them are trying to do it, but there still seems to be so much competition going on in that market that it's really a difficult challenge.
It is really tough for them at the moment, Craig. They're competing with a lot of the first home buyers to downsize into the units. And they're also struggling, I think, a little bit. A lot of them, they've got a lot of equity built up in their own property, but they can't necessarily afford to buy the next one without selling their current home. And given the competition that they're seeing in the market, like a lot of the subject to sale contracts that historically we would look at, people would be looking to accept, they're not making it through past the sellers at the moment because of those, fully pre-approved owner-occupiers that are buying their first home. They just come in short terms, and that's what the sellers are looking for.
Yeah, so investors are sort of knocking them out. First home buyers as well. Now, there's been a little bit of a jump, I understand, in the price point for apartments, particularly for over the last 12 months. So talk that through, especially for our first home buyers that are not sitting in Queensland right now, that might be sort of eyeing the market. What is happening in that space?
So the units in the north of Brisbane and Brisbane as a whole, what we're really seeing is something around about a 20% jump in the market over the last kind of 12 to 6 months. It's been really sudden. I think a lot of that's to do with, obviously, we've had a lot of increases in rent. So people are deciding, let's buy a home rather than continue to pay rent. And also more recently, which I think will help bolster the market going forward, the state government's obviously changed that stamp duty concession from $550,000 all the way to $800,000, and also the deposit guarantee scheme that'll come into play as well for a lot of these first home buyers.
And we talk a lot about being finance ready, and then of course the goalposts shifting somewhat when these mortgage rates tend to move around. How much frustration are you seeing with first home buyers that are almost there, are almost across the line, but they're not quite there, or they just don't have enough money to get that money for an apartment because, as you say, that has sort of gotten away on them?
Look, I'm seeing a lot of first-home buyers that are, they're really turning to the bank of mum and dad. And we're seeing it every weekend where they're going out and they're borrowing $5,000 or $10,000 from family just to try and get them over that last little hurdle. But then when you couple that with the increase in prices that we're seeing, that little bit of help that they're getting just isn't quite being enough, and they're still getting out-competed by other buyers in the market. So it's not a great thing to see, unfortunately, Craig. Like, we want these first-home buyers to be getting into the market, buying their first home, but the competition that is out there, people are missing out on, I had someone miss out on 13 properties in a row. They were telling me on the weekends. So it's tough out there.
Oh, yeah, 13 properties. Now, just last week, we were talking to Michelle May. She's a buyer's agent there in Sydney. She was talking about that very point about mum and dad, the bank of mum and dad. What she's found, you don't know who to actually talk with, who actually is running the show. In a lot of cases, it's mum and dad, and she's even had to fire some of her clients because mum and dad are vetoing decisions that the kids want to buy a house and the parents are saying no. Are you seeing that on the ground as an agent?
Absolutely. I was listening to that podcast last week and she was spot on. We're seeing, the kids come in for the first inspection. They love the unit. They know they've missed out on a number of properties. Then mum and dad come back through. And for whatever reason, whether it's they're just trying to protect them or whether they, just have a different set of standards, they're vetoing those decisions and they're going, you're only allowed to go to a certain amount of money and I will help you with that. Or, in some instances, they're just stopping the sale entirely.
Now, a question that I haven't actually asked before, though, just in that whole zone of what we're talking about with mum and dads, you must see this at auctions where the children are wanting to sort of go a little bit higher and they could almost be slowly putting their hand up and mum and dad grab that hand and bring it down pretty quick. Is that something you see?
Look, we see that with mum and dad. We see that with husbands and wives all the time too. Mum and dad, look, at the end of the day, depending on how much of a financial commitment they're putting forward, it definitely does happen. It's one of those things. You just see the kids turn, look to mum and dad, or we'll pause the auction and they'll go and have a discussion. And you can see that, the kids, they want the house, but they're not making the decision.
Now, I mentioned that you're from LJ Hooker there in Stafford. Have you got a shout out to anybody this morning that you want to say good morning to, Adam?
I'd just say morning to the team. No doubt they'll be listening to the podcast and obviously say hi to the whole LJ Hooker as a whole. I've been here 15 years and it's a fantastic place to be.
How big's the team?
I've only got about 8 salespeople in the team, but it's, high performing, not high volume. So we do a really good job.
All right. Well, to all the team there working with Adam, good morning to you and keep that high performance going. Great to chat with you this morning, Adam. Enjoy your Thursday and thank you for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast.
Thanks so much. An absolute pleasure.
From first-time home buyers to seasoned investors to breaking property news, discover the stories behind the real estate.
If you have gone for a mortgage and your borrowing capacity isn't great, you can give out some of the pointers in the right direction.
Yeah, there's actually lots of things that you can do to increase that capacity. So you could reduce your credit card limits or close them down, pay down personal debt. You could refinance your car loan if you have one or pay it out. But if you refinance it, lower loan repayments each month instead of potentially higher ones. HEX is a big one, obviously, in Australia. Salary sacrifice or tax-free income. People getting a second job. At the moment, we're finding a lot of first-home buyers are getting a second job.
Because if it's an apartment, then there are opportunities that are in more central locations. There's an area called Braddon around this. So there's lots of central locations that offer opportunities with apartments. If they want a house with a bit of land, then they may need to look a bit further afield.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.